Hey, what is going on, you guys? It is Mr. No Sleep here from Old School RuneScape, and welcome to a brand new video for you all today. So today I bring you guys loot from 3,000 Wyrms. Now I know that I did loot from 1,000 of Hydra and Drake, but the reason I wanted to kill 3,000 instead of 1,000 of these Wyrms is because compared to the Hydra and compared to the Drake, these are much lower combat and also much lower requirements. So I figured, looking at the overall drop table with a bigger amount of kills would be necessary, and it wouldn't take that long, so 3,000 kills wouldn't be that much of a stretch compared to 1,000. And before this video began, I wasn't too sure what weapon to go with. At first I was thinking a blowpipe, but then I was thinking, it was going to be a lot of supplies, a lot of darts and scales, so maybe I'll try a whip. Then I realized that something that I haven't shown in any of these loot videos yet is actually the new weapon that came into the game along with all these new monsters, and that is of course the Dragon Hunter Lance. So yeah, during this loot video you guys will see that weapon in action, and I just want to say, compared to the blowpipe, compared to the rapier, the whip, whatever it is that you want to use here, this has got to be best in slot. I mean, I was out DPSing most people that were even on task here using blowpipes and whips and things like that. So I really do recommend this weapon for Wyrms or even Drakes or even Hydras. I was on a Slayer task last night doing Drakes on my main, and I used this weapon for the first time there, and I was hitting consistent 50s and 60s, and it was just incredibly accurate. So yeah, definitely a really cool weapon that came into the game lately, and I actually bought it at 100 mil, so I'm pretty sure it's going to go way down compared to that price. But I figured it was worth mentioning that I do think it's the best in slot here, and if you can't afford it, then hey, why not use it? So alongside the lance, I was bringing a Saradomin Godsword as my spec wep, and of course I would just use this whenever I would need a little bit of HP or some prayer points back. It does save you some prayer points in the long run, which will save you money, so it's important to bring an SGS if you can afford one, or maybe just a Dragon Dagger. Really, any special weapon is good here. These are really low defense, so you don't have to worry too much about your choice of spec. Now I will say the number one thing that is required at these Wyrms would be prayer potions. Seeing as you have to pray magic the whole entire time you are here, or you will take some damage. I've seen Max Mains pray, I've seen Iron Men's pray. It really doesn't matter what account you bring here, you just basically have to pray mage, pretty much just like you have to pray range 24/7 at Drakes, and then you have to switch your prayers over at Hydras. It seems like all these new monsters you have to keep your prayer on, especially overheads on. So yeah, for all you Iron Men out there, just keep that in the back of your mind. You do need some prayer potions for this if you get it as a Slayer task, or if you just want to camp these, off task, maybe get some Pure Essence or whatever drops that are appealable to Iron Men. I will be talking about the normal drop table a little bit later on, but for now I feel like it's just important to cover the rare drop tables, seeing as you just saw the first clip of me getting my first rare throughout this video, which was the Dragon Sword. These Wyrms are actually known to drop 4 different rares. 2 of them are considered very rare, and the other 2 are just considered rare. The 2 rare drops being the Dragon Knife and the Dragon Throne Axe, and the 2 very rare drops being the Dragon Sword and the Dragon Harpoon. Now the GE market price on the Dragon Sword right now is 477k, and the GE market price on that Dragon Harpoon is 1.9 mil. So looking at that, that is a pretty big difference between the values, and unfortunately we did get the Dragon Sword pretty early on though, so I wasn't that discouraged. It was actually pretty funny when I got that Dragon Sword. I actually had a Wyrm Slayer task on my Iron Man account, and on that Slayer task, the second kill, I got a Dragon Sword on that account, and it happened like I think 5 minutes in between each other. And it was nice to see the drops from an Iron Man perspective as well as a main perspective, because some items are more useful on an Iron Man account that these Wyrms drop compared to being on a main account. For example, noted Pure Essence, as well as arrow tips and herbs and seeds and all that good stuff. Something you might have noticed early on was all those level 3 clue scrolls that we kept getting. It was pretty weird, I would go through cycles of not seeing a clue in like multiple hundreds of kills, and then I would get back-to-back clues very quickly. So yeah, these Wyrms do drop hard clue scrolls, and of course I did make the judgment call not to do the clues during this video since I was more so focused just on the loot and the drops from the Wyrms. If I could go back in time though, I probably would have done all the clue scrolls, to be honest with you though. It would have taken the video a little bit longer, but seeing as I really couldn't get any clips for this video because the Wyrms, again, if you're not on task, the rare drops are much more uncommon to see, and overall the Wyrm drop table isn't that great as it goes for the value, but don't let that discourage you because the value can be found in other places. And what I mean by this is, only weirdos like me kill Wyrms off task. I think I was the only one throughout this whole video who was not wearing a Slayer helmet. Since that's the case, I would assume that most people are doing these Wyrm tasks through Konar Slayer, and if you happen to be using that Slayer Master, then you have access to a whole nother drop table that is filled with valuables, uniques, and all sorts of supplies and resources. Now, this video is mainly focusing on Wyrms, but in my next video, you guys will see 30 hours of Konar Slayer, and that whole video will focus on that one specific drop table that you can access through that one specific master. You guys will be seeing that video in just a few days from now, but getting back to these Wyrms, I did want to showcase 1,000 kills. I didn't want to sell anything, of course, but I just wanted to show what 1,000 kills look like in the price check, just for anyone who prefers to see 1,000 rather than 3,000. And of course, you know, we got to kill some video time. So yeah, looking at this, you know, you can kind of get the idea of the drops, but again, don't take into account the price of the bones. Let me tell you, they are definitely not 3.2k, which is what the price guide says. And I did fast forward this part because I didn't want to kind of ruin the outro of the video showing all of the loot. But as you can see, you know, we did receive just about 7.2 mil from 1,000 worms, and that is the street value. You know, that is not the actual grand exchange price, you know, because you have to sell all those items in the grand exchange to get the actual price. But, you know, 7.2 mil from an outlook of, you know, 1,000 kills, that did seem like quite a bit of money. Give you guys an early spoiler, you know, that kind of gave me some false hope during the video too. So yeah, that was 1,000 kills anyway. And to answer the most commonly asked question that I see in the comments section of how long those 1,000 kills took me, since I was averaging over 100 kills an hour, approximately 125 kills an hour, it did take less than 10 hours to do, and overall the 3,000 kills that I did, it took about 24 hours to do. Now that is averaging maximum kills per hour. I mean, that was like no breaks, no nothing. I was really try-harding all those kills. I'd say on easy hours and laid back hours, I was probably getting about 100 kills an hour, because I like to AFK a lot and I'm always on multiple accounts. So just to answer that question, it's usually always going to be in the realm of 100 or over 100. And just in general, your kills per hour are usually determined on your combat level and, you know, if you're potted, if you're using piety versus not, what weapon you're using, etc. I would say the kills per hour can vary, considering, you know, the only requirement to actually kill these worms is 62 slayers. So I mean, a lot of people can kill these worms, definitely more so than, you know, can kill wyverns, which is 72 required slayer. The slayer masters that can assign you these worms do vary. There's actually 4 different ones, and one of them being Duradel, the next one being Neve, the next one being Konar, as I mentioned before, and of course Chalder, which is a very low level slayer master. Banking is most likely the same for everybody. I just always bring a Drayman staff. Of course, you got to type in the code CIR, and once you just do that, you just got to run up the ladder and down the elevator, and to the west you go. Kinda goes without being said, but of course you do need to bring boots of stone, boots of brimstone, or granite boots, and you won't take any damage from the constant flames that are on the floor. So I was just going with granite boots since I was using melee. If you're using range, you should go with brimstone, and if you're poor and you just don't really have any money, or you're an Iron Man, then of course go with boots of stone. So now that we talked about the drop table, and of course about how to kill it, you know, why to kill it, where you should kill it, all that good stuff, I figured we should talk a little bit about the history of the worm, and you know, where did this monster come from? According to the wiki, worms were an ancient race of dragons said to be capable of destroying cities and armies on their own. They slowly disappeared due to their heavy involvement in the God Wars, and the current worms in the dungeon now are an attempted recreation of the powerful worms of old by an unnamed dragonkin. I gotta be honest, I'm not too sure about that last part, but in general, you know, there are 2 different forms of this monster. You come in this room, you know, they start by slithering around, you know, like a snake, and you're really not too sure what to do. And once you attack it though, they levitate off the ground and they start attacking back. So, you know, using magic, they can be very deadly, but nevertheless, we took on those deadly levitating worms, and 3,000 kills later, here we are. So yeah, in general, man, this video took just about 24 and upwards of 30 hours to make, and I do apologize that I did not upload it sooner. Nevertheless though, there is 3,000 kills complete. Looking at the drop table, you can see they do have a decent amount of runes, a decent amount of alkables, some red d'hide chaps, as well as some earth battle staves, decent amount of seeds, and a small amount of herbs. You know, some variety in there, as I mentioned before. And here we go with the first price check. Now do keep in mind the price of the bones shown is inaccurate, but for the most part, every other item shown is accurate. So yeah, you know, you do have a decent amount of money coming from the blood runes, the dragon daggers, and all of those items adding up to be just about 15.1 mil. And of course, we still have one price check to go. This is all of the seeds and the herbs. I actually did forget to price check the dragon sword, but trust me when I say that does not matter. You guys will see what I mean here in a second. And the second price check coming out to be just about 900k. So 15.1 mil plus 900k, about 16 mil from 3,000 worms. Kind of interesting to see that, seeing as how, you know, we saw that initial 7 mil from the first 1,000. But now it's the moment of truth. How much money did we really make, you know, once all these items sell for what they're really worth rather than what the price guide tells us what they're worth? And yeah, as you can see, we did put these worm bones in the GE for 2.7k at first and then 1.7k, so I was dropping the price significantly. And then I decided, you know, 1.2k, but yeah, it seems like they just weren't selling. So the next place I went was 750 GP, and they all did sell for 1,160 GP per bone. Certainly not the original 2.7k that I was expecting, but nevertheless, at least we know the real value now. Now, looking at that dragon sword, as I mentioned before, was 400k, ended up selling for 275k. Unfortunately, we only did get that one dragon sword as a rare throughout these 3,000 kills, and I figured I would fast forward all the other items to sell, and you know, once we did sell those items, we did come up with just about 11.2 mil, and again, that is from 3,000 Wyrms. The cost of supplies during the making of this video was 3.4 mil, which really isn't too much, seeing as we only used super combat sips and 2 prayer potions per inventory. Total profit coming out to be 8 mil in about 24 to 30 hours of killing Wyrms. So there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm not too sure how to feel about this one, but nevertheless, I will see you guys in about 2 to 3 days with a new video. So yeah, take it easy, and thanks a lot for watching.